Well, good evening. I personally wanted to touch on a few things in reference to this NFL lawsuit. And I've been watching various people have commentary, and I've been listening intently to what they've been saying. And let's address a few things. Now, it's no secret that the NFL has always been the good old boy network. The NFL is the last place that equality really shows. See, there's a 9-inch nail embedded in the backs of the African American athlete. It's only been pulled out 3 inches, and we call that progress. Now, let's deal with some history for some people who really may not know. Art Shell, Denny Green, they were supposed to be the catalyst for hiring, and they did the jobs that they did. Let's have some real talk. I remember being an avid football fan. At the time, as I've said before, I was a Dallas Cowboy fan because my mother dated Preston Pearson's brother. And the Cowboys were, when I lived in Dallas at that time, back in the early 80s, I had been a Cowboy fan since 1976. It's Tony Dorsett, Raphael Septien, Billy Joe Dupree, Randy White, Stepnoski, all of those guys. This is back, I think even Mike Ditka was still on the staff. Tom Landry was the coach. We're talking about Texas. So now, when you talk about the black athlete, I'm building up to something that leads to Brother Flores and his lawsuit. This will always be a time that white America, especially in this aspect of the football game, will always have that control over the so-called Negro. Now, those of us who are Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I will always be a fan of Mike Tomlin because at the time, I believe he was with Minnesota when he was asked, when Art Rooney was asked to give this young guy a shot. And there was another high-profile former player, I believe, who was going to get the job. And Mike Tomlin went in and blew him out of the water. This was Art Rooney. Now, Mike Tomlin sold himself. Of course, it happens. You already have someone on your list. I believe it might have been Russ Grimm. And Russ Grimm was, he lost the job to Mike Tomlin. Pittsburgh has been an organization, it's a staple in the football blue-collar world. They've only had 3 quarterbacks in their history. Let's deal with a few things as I'm going along with this. I remember when people were calling for Mike Tomlin's job, et cetera, et cetera. We forget the hypocrisy that we have when the athlete is winning, they give all the credit to the quarterback. It's a team sport. The same way we do with Michael Jordan. Oh, he's 6-0. Well, there are a few people that if they didn't hit the shot, the Bulls wouldn't have won. It's a team sport. Bill Cowher's record is a little bit less than Mike Tomlin's. Bill Cowher has a few losing seasons. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. That means something in the NFL. What's disappointing is, in dealing with the Flores allegations about the disparities and what have you, it's time for a change. This issue has come up again. We're dealing with the Rooney Rule. All right, let's get to that Rooney Rule. When Rooney took on Mike Tomlin, hired Mike Tomlin, he's been there. We forget Rooney is the same man when Joe Gilliam led the team to the Super Bowl. He's the same man who allowed Al Davis, just win baby himself, from the Oakland Raiders. He said, don't let that nigga play. Don't put that nigga in the game. And that's how Terry Bradshaw got in the game. Bradshaw didn't play the majority of all that season. Lynn Swann, there was no secret as to why he took so long to get into the Hall of Fame. He was always crying. Joe throws too hard. He throws too hard. Joe Gilliam, for all that he did, Joe Gilliam was really the first black quarterback to get to the Super Bowl, but he didn't play in one. That's why they credit that to Doug Williams. It's like I used to tell people, Tom Brady is the only Michigan quarterback to lead his team to the Super Bowl and win. He's not the only team to lead his team. He's not the only person to lead his team to the Super Bowl from Michigan, but he's the only one to win. So we forget the history of the Raiders organization as ownership when Marcus Allen, I don't think he played 2 years. He sat on the bench and then came in the Super Bowl and showed out. Marcus Allen went through a lot of stuff. So I'm looking at a lot of stuff that goes on. The black athlete, he was never seen as a thinker. A lot of what's changing now is the black athlete is having his own mind, and he's not allowing finance to be the determining factor for him to shuck and jive and step and fetch it anymore. Colin Kaepernick, we've brushed that under the rug. We have all of these slogans and things, change, be the change. What change? You have 70% athletes in football, and we don't have any owners. It's not like we can't come up with enough people to purchase a team, but that will always be a good old boy network. Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, they will always be the Lurie from Philadelphia and the owner of the now Washington Commanders. They will always be the catalyst of what goes on and what gets done in football, because they are the bread and money of the decisions being made. So they think because they gave Ozzie Newsome a particular type of position that that called some shots. They think that because they give, a black man a little bit of scraps, that he's calling some shots. That doesn't happen. That's not happening. We have a lot of well-to-do, well-off assistant coaches. The common phrase is, well, we hired the best qualified candidate. But when you talk about a body of work and what they've done, an offensive coordinator is not the same as a quarterback's coach. A quarterback's coach does not teach the quarterback how to think. You develop your eye by your own personal observation of what you and your ability to read defenses. This is why Peyton Manning was the type of individual that he was. Tom Brady, the type of individual that he was. I don't see a lot of people that taught Tom Brady with head coaching jobs. We can't say that that's what it is with Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels came under the tree of Bill Belichick. Look where Bill Belichick came from, and all of the rest of these guys. It used to be Tom Landry's tree where a lot of these guys went, but now it turned into Bill Belichick's tree. So the lawsuit isn't without merit. It is vital. The problem is you're going into Massa's house and you trying to tell Massa how to run his thing. The only way that this issue can be done, this is why they call them contracts, because you have put yourself into litigation if you don't run, jump, catch, boy. This is what it's always been. This is why it's always been the big fight between how the NBA and the NFL run. See, of course it's billionaires. Mark Cuban, he loves his players. He makes sure that his players are comfortable. He goes all out. It's not how much you know. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what's going to be the problem in the NFL. Brian Flores had a winning record. He was doing well in Miami. And him saying that they didn't want to mention the quarterback, but we all knew that it was about Deshaun Watson and pursuing Deshaun Watson. But he would have been the one that was had his head on the chopping block had anything gone wrong with the tampering. They brought in Tiki Barber to vehemently deny that this is going on. There's no racism. It's always someone that they want to bring on the playing field. The same way they did Herschel Walker, to have him come in talking reckless and showing all of this love for some trash. Tiki Barber, you have history with the Giants. But I want to see what Michael Strahan may say. I want to see what Jason Pierre-Paul may say. I want to see what white player can come out and speak out about what's going on and the things that happen. How is it that Big Ben Roethlisberger can retire from the NFL? He went out like he did. They tried to do the best they could with Pittsburgh. Everybody's loving him, signs, crying, tears, everything. But only the black journalists, can make mention or lightly lead to Big Ben's issues with the rape charges. How is it a problem discussing that about Big Ben and he's just now retiring? Oh, first ballot Hall of Fame. It's no question. On the field, he was not to be played with. Well, Michael Vick was not to be played with either. They just put a report out talking about the last dog that was in the dog fighting ring just passed away. Why would that even be relevant? Because it's a lot easier to disparage the black quarterback. You know, we have seen a quarterback like Lamar Jackson before. Lamar Jackson is discussing his own contract. I believe his mother may be his manager, but I know she's very close to him in his business. You're not designed to be able to think for yourselves. This is why some of the greatest offensive linemen ever have looked like you, black man. So it's about protecting that quarterback, but it's always been the white man who's been the guard, the tackle, the offensive lineman, the thinker. You know, we will always rave Dick Butkus. He didn't like anyone who wasn't in a Bears uniform. Butkus didn't like anyone. We very seldom talk about Deacon Jones. He's mentioned, but not in the same breath as Dick Butkus. We still bring up Mike Ditka because he was that quintessential hard-hitting tight end. We don't even want to leave Shannon Sharp and his rings up there on the table to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest tight end. We want to put Kelsey above him now. Well, Kelsey, statistically, he gets the ball. He's not to be played with. He's disrespectful on that field. He's nice. Everything is always about the competition. But the whole gist of all of this is about how the black athlete is spoken of. Why don't we mention Vince Evans as far as that running quarterback that could throw with that gun? We don't talk about Vince Evans. He wasn't a winner like that. Well, Dan Marino wasn't a winner either, but we keep Marino up in that conversation. Jim Kelly wasn't a winner, but we keep Jim Kelly up in that conversation. We only talk about the people that we want to keep above everything. I remember when Warren Moon was getting ready to break a record of most passing yards in a game. They pulled him out because they wanted the other record to stand. But Warren Moon will always be remembered for some domestic stuff. He won't be remembered for sending 3 wide receivers to the Pro Bowl every year when they played in the Pro Bowl, because Warren Moon could throw the ball 76 yards flat-footed. He got the MVP of the league, I believe, or maybe it was MVP of the Pro Bowl, and he was in his 40s. And so we marvel at what Tom Brady has done. Well, the rules changed for Tom Brady to be able to do this. The rules hadn't changed when Warren Moon was doing this. So hopefully the evidence that Flores has, he'll be able to do what he needs to do and win this case. I have zero faith in any type of investigation, nothing for Roger Goodell and all of that, because he works for the owners. He's going to do what the owners tell him, and that will always be. How could we be so naive and just dumb about the kneeling issue when Kaepernick had enough sense and enough respect to ask a military man who told him, no, you wouldn't be disrespecting kneeling like this, to speak on it about what is going on? And the national anthem, good old America. And it's about slave ownership. It's disrespectful to us. And so Michael Jackson said it best. They don't really care about us. We have and will always be their source of entertainment, be it through hip hop music, be it through entertainment. That's why we want you to jump, we want you to dunk, we want you to pass that ball and just show out and keep us laughing, keep us spending that money, boy. That's what you're good at. We don't need you thinking. This is why it's so easy for a white woman to come in there and say, just shut up and dribble. But let that have been a man, it would have been a problem. So, Brian Flores, if at any point in time this reach you, I don't know. I just put a video out periodically every now and then, and I say what I do. But I'm behind you, brother. I'm just a fan. And the fact that you saw something and you may have a winner, I'm happy for you. I want a lot of other people to get behind you. This is what people have the issue with Deion Sanders about, going down there to Jackson State and doing what he's doing, turning that community around, turning that program around, turning HBCU life around, getting it back to where people can pay attention to us. For far too long, we have always felt like if we're not around the white man, we can't make it. No one will like us. Well, I do recall the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying, if they don't want you there, don't go there. Get your own and make your own. You know, go where people want you. And so many paraphrasing that. Go where people want you. And so instead of, you know, Deion being down there, Coach Prime being down there and being an asset to Jackson, Mississippi, they want him to go somewhere and be an asset to a predominantly white institution. It makes no difference where we attended. It's about going back and helping someone in a better light. It's really disheartening. We've gotten away from all of the emails and things that happened with John Gruden. It was no secret that John Gruden was who he was, and they swept that under the rug. We don't discuss that anymore. We don't discuss the issue about Colin Kaepernick anymore. He's just basically he's run out of football. And this is going to be something very hard to deal with, because they're going to come up with something to eliminate it from happening. Everyone in Denver who's ever seen John Elway knows he likes to sip. That's just, I mean, that's out there. Social media is something else, because it's a lot of people that see people out in these streets and they get their sip on. So they're going to find out whether or not this is of some merit. Now, you have a quarterback who had open sexual issues with some woman, and he was allowed to continue playing football. There have been other athletes that have got into domestic situations and they had to, you know, do all kinds of hoop jumping to prove their merit. And it went the way that it did. So, that's going to be very interesting. And I hate that it happened the way that it did. This brother lost his job because he didn't want to do what the owner told him because he had integrity. Now all of a sudden, the right thing's been, you know, integrity, and this is malicious, and all of these different words. Everybody's in Black's Law Dictionary now, trying to come up with the verbiage to make it seem like, you know, nothing is going on. What could he possibly be talking about? And it's all been it's been this way for decades. It's been this way for decades. And this is just a day and age where people are putting, being integrous and putting things out there. I believe that a lot more will come out about this. See, this Rooney Rule about giving the black candidates an opportunity, there's always a way around that. We can play games if we want to and act like Bill Belichick didn't have firsthand knowledge. That interview that Tiki Barber gave was classic Bojangling bootlicking. Classic. Because see, white America has done this for centuries. Anytime there was an uprising with black people, they would always go and get that bootlicking preacher and promise him an extra piece of chicken and buttered biscuit if you didn't know the history of how that comes with that Sunday dinner with the chicken. They would always go and get some bootlicking preacher to calm down the Negroes. And it's happened that way for years. It's happened that way for years. We did it with Jesse. They did it with Reverend Al. And now they've found these other preachers out here to do these different things. And anything to keep everything calmed down. Because when we get tired, we get tired. The only way, because I spoke about contract earlier, the only way that this can be made known is if there was a complete sit down. Damn your contract, take your money back, all of that. We will quit and do what we got to do. See, what would really shake up the NFL? Every black athlete out there just said, to hell with you, we done. Take us to litigation, sue us. You can have your money back, all of that. We quit and come up with their own league. It's not like it won't be watched. All ownership is owned by your own people. It's not like it can't happen. You want to get in something? Get your own. It's obvious they don't want you around. They don't want you at the table. They don't want you at the golf outings. None of that. Everything we touch, we either destroy it or we show out in it. We weren't born and bred around any ice. That's why we don't dominate hockey. But many of the black athletes that have been up there in that hockey world were dominant. My last point. This issue that I saw with these different coaches and players coming out, speaking out against Brian Flores. You were handpicked. You were handpicked. And this is the reason why a lot of Black America doesn't get the love and support in anything that we do, because we don't get behind one another. It's just that simple. And it's sad. It's sad. But hopefully it will change, and not in some 10, 12, 15 years. Every time people come to the table to try to get some ownership, it's always shot down because it has to be voted on. You have a lot of good old boy owners, a lot of old billionaires. They're not trying to have no Negroes around them. Your money too short, period. So the barbecue rib that they gave us was allowing Jay-Z to be in charge of a lot of things dealing with the NFL in the halftime. And just in a nutshell, just calling it raw as it is, you be in charge of the entertainment, boy, because that's how they see him. A nigga that came from the streets, got his money flipped around, doing what he doing, he in business, and he got a name. Love him to death. But that's just how they view him. Doesn't matter how he thinks they view him. That's how they view him. And so you only sit at the table because they chose to put the seat there. You don't sit at the table because your name is on it. Everybody else got names on it. It is what it is.